Well then, Luke Armstrong's a Carlisle United player, and I think it's pretty safe to say that the Piatics are not messing about. Even when they were announced as official owners a few weeks ago, we didn't fully know how well they'd be able to compete on the financial stage, but that question's been answered quite emphatically. On Monday morning, Carlisle United and Harrogate Town jointly announced that Luke Armstrong would be sold to the Blues in January. After the news broke, Carlisle United manager Paul Simpson had this to say about his new striker. He's a real good addition and is the first of what I hope will be maybe 5 or 6 more. I think it shows the intent of what we want. We are absolutely determined to stay in League One, and the owners are absolutely determined to stay in League One. Now, the Yorkshire-based club had set £500,000 price tag for Armstrong in the summer, which is one that Carlisle weren't going to be able to meet, especially before the new ownership came in. But MK Dons and Wrexham were the two main battlers for the 27-year-old's signature at the time, and the Welsh side reportedly met the £500,000 price tag on the final day of the transfer window. But slow submission of paperwork led to the move falling through, and it meant that Armstrong would be staying in the Yorkshire for the foreseeable. Ultimately, he was always going to make a move in January. The failed Wrexham deal led to a missed opportunity of a big contract for him and an even bigger fee for the club, and such an agreement was made that he would leave Harrogate in the new year, for the betterment of both parties really. Carlisle were initially deterred by the £500,000 price tag that was set in the summer, but the new ownership provided a new hope of being able to recruit the striker, and such a deal was made. After the move was announced, Simo had this to say about his new forward. He's an energetic player, he's got a bit of nastiness about him, and he can score goals as well. But what else can Blues fans expect from Armstrong? These are some of the most key stats when it comes to the 27-year-old. He scored 29 goals in his last 103 league appearances at a rate of close to 1 every 3 games, but just under that mark. He was 5th top scorer in League 2 last season for Harrogate side that finished 19th in the table, and he's registered a 14% conversion rate over the last 2 full seasons, as well as 11 league assists to go along with that. Anyone who's been and watched the Blues this season would have been able to tell that striker is a very big problem for them. There's been an over-reliance on 35-year-old Joe Garner, who started around half the games that the club has played this season. They've also had the likes of Ryan Edmondson, Sean Maguire and Luke Planch not live up to expectations for varying reasons. And on top of that, you add the injuries to JJ Coyote, Terry Oblade, and you've got quite a recipe for a pretty limp front line, to be honest. Of the 4 fit strikers that Simpson has at his disposal, only really Garner and Edmondson could be classed as out-and-out strikers, even though Edmondson does his best to try and disprove that. Having said that, neither Edmo or Garner have been brilliant at being in the areas that a striker should be in. These are the average heat maps for Edmondson, Garner and Plange in the league this season. As you can see, Garner is the only one who's really staying central, but even still, he's dropping deep and moving wide to try and get involved in the build-up play as much as possible. This often leads to the ball getting to the likes of Jordan Gibson, Josh Emanuel and Jack Armour in wide areas, and there's nobody in the box to find. This is one area that Armstrong should immediately address. His heat map from the previous campaign shows that he operates as a true striker, and the manner of his goals reflect that too. He's often in the right places at the right time, and that's something that Carlisle have really missed massively this season, especially with Coyote's injury. By the sounds of it, the search for attacking options isn't going to stop now that Armstrong's been officially brought to the club. Bringing in another forward was discussed at the recent fans forum meeting with the manager and the owners, as well as a goalkeeper, possibly 2 centre mids and even a centre back if one could be found. Personally, I would be surprised if the future moves for attackers were done on a permanent basis, although Simpson did say that if they can do permanent deals they will. There are going to be some knock-on effects of this move, like Luke Plange's future was already in doubt, but the chances of his loan being extended in January look even slimmer now that Armstrong's been brought in. I'd imagine that the likes of Terry Oblade could go back to Fulham as well. He's taken up a loan spot at the moment, and his injury is one that means he's probably not going to be back for some time, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if the departure of Ryan Edmondson was still on the table. The other major effect of this move will be felt much more in the long term, I think. It's now official, Carlisle are no longer one of the poorer clubs in the league. Well, in the EFL, to be honest. As I mentioned, this move is probably the most expensive in the club's history. The fact that the £140,000 deal for Joe Garner back in 2007 stood for so long is really a testament as to just how poor Carlisle have been in terms of being able to compete on the financial stage. This move alone has changed that status massively. They're not going to be feeding off of the clubs above them and trying to get in last minute loan deals on the final day of the transfer window. They're officially a big spender, and clubs and players alike are going to be taking advantage of this where they can in negotiations. The good thing is that Paul Simpson, Greg Abbott and the owners seem to be aware of the fact that teams are going to try and take advantage of Carlisle's new wealth when it comes to buying players, doing loan deals, etc, etc. Simpson has stressed at the fact that they need to keep the current wage structure as it is and not have players on, 2 or even 3 times what other players are on. The length of contract that Armstrong's been given is the real big unknown when it comes to this move at the moment. But one thing I think I can say when it comes to this move is we all have to commend the work done by Simpson, Abbott and the Piatics in getting this move over the line. This move should and probably will be seen by other clubs as a real statement of intent. Coming in and breaking the club's transfer record could be seen as something that was eventually going to happen, but it's a significant marker and it should be received as such. Ultimately, the Piatics haven't bought a football club to keep them at the bottom end of League One. They're here to win things and to be successful, and acquiring Armstrong is just the first step in what will be, admittedly, quite a long road, but a road that hopefully will lead to a bright future for this club.